Why doesn't that cathedral interest me? When I look into a child's eyes, there's an unfeigned appreciation for what he or she sees. It might be any variety of emotions: happiness, fear, sadness, elation, wonderment, curiosity. But whatever it might be, it's real and it's beautiful. It reminds me of my childhood, when I lived in the present and didn't think much beyond my immediate surroundings and feelings of the moment. As I think back on my life, I noticed that this feeling of living in the moment started to fade at the same time that I went on my first major international adventure. I was 13 years old and moving with my family to Kenya. While in Kenya, I was exposed to people and cultures very different from my own. Culture shock was a daily event where I was constantly forced into thinking of myself either in comparison or in contrast to my new reality. Difficult as it was at times, I came to not only appreciate the life of being a foreigner, but actively sought settings where I was different from the norm, where I would stand out, where my mere presence elicited conversation and inquiry. My boyhood fascination with the moment seemed to have been replaced by something equally as exciting, but an emotion that came and went with the surge of adventure. Through my travels, my worldview changed from the introspection of subjectivity to that of objectivity. Instead of seeing myself in relations to my internal feelings alone, my identity became clearer to me as I learned to compare and contrast myself to people who lived in my radically changing surroundings. From 1989, when I left Kenya, until the last few years, I've lived an adventurous life, traveling, living, and working in Africa, Europe, South America, and Asia, seeking a life of culture shock, constantly challenging myself in search of the rush that comes with a new setting. From my 20s, I had many opportunities to travel and took them all. But a few years ago, I was in Europe and had the opportunity to visit a beautiful 500-year-old cathedral and experienced yet another shock. This time, I found myself reluctant to visit this exquisite building in much the same way that a child will complain about going to a museum when he should really be appreciative. I questioned how much I'd really enjoy the experience because I'd previously seen so many amazing buildings around the world. Some months later, a similar experience happened when I found myself dragging my feet to go visit a waterfall. What was wrong with me? How could I be so callous to not find excitement in such beauty? In the last 2 years, I've slowly been making a transition. One away from having my life's adventure and excitement come from external events, new countries, cultures, situations. Although I had become very proficient in finding a lifestyle full of adventure, I had lost the ability to be quiet and reflective by myself. I was alone even though I was surrounded by people and movement. I was no longer thinking in the moment, but rather focusing on the next adventure. I couldn't connect with myself in the present and was focusing entirely on the future. Even though it's taken me many years to understand the question of why the cathedral didn't interest me, I think I've got the answer. I'm now learning once again to retrain my eyes to be those of a boy, where even the simplest wonders of the world can be fascinating, whether that be an amazing old building, a waterfall, or the most seemingly mundane events of a wonderfully normal day, no matter where in the world that might be.